It's mailbag time here on Chat Sports. I am Tom Downey, answering all of your questions here live on Monday for NFL Daily. And first up, a super chat from Mark, my boy Mark. I read center J.C. Treader from Cleveland does not practice anymore because of bad knees, and he's the NFL Players Union rep, and Jerry Jones does not want the drama around the locker room. I've heard this too. I think it was a Brian Broaddus report. He is the NFL Player Union president, and if that is a reason why you don't sign somebody because you don't want that in the locker room, I think you're kind of being dumb. Like, I get unions, and for the NFL it's a bad thing, but like, he's good at football, so I would still do it. Even though he wasn't practicing, he played in almost every game. So maybe you're worried long-term about that. I get it, but a one-year deal would not dissuade me from signing somebody. From John Kruger, Julio Jones to the Colts. I think it makes sense. They could still use another outside receiver. You pray that Paris Campbell is actually healthy. Pittman and Pierce are both similar sizes, not caliber of players, as Julio Jones, but I do think that you could add him to your roster, especially with the chemistry that already exists between Julio and Matt Ryan. From Kevin McFlurry, reaction to A.J. Brown going to the Eagles. I mean, I loved it for Philly. Team that, and producer Jack, who runs the Titan channel, says he hates it for Tennessee. Like, you pay him a big-time contract. I get all that. You allegedly lowballed, and then A.J. Brown highballed on his counteroffer. Whatever. He's good at football. I like to keep those guys on my roster in the end. The Eagles have not drafted receivers well beyond Devontae Smith. Now they have a really good one. Matt Productions, are the Bucs going to sign anyone else? Maybe. I think internal signings, re-signings of guys like Rob Gronkowski and Ndamukong Suh certainly make a lot of sense for the Bucs to look at to try to run it back for one more year with Brady. Cameron Christie, or maybe 12 more years for Brady given his ageless wonderness. When do you see Desmond Ridder starting? It's a good question. I think that Ritter's going to take over at some point in year one. I don't think he needs that much like growth from like a like developmental standpoint. I know he's a smaller school player, so he's going to kind of get adjusted to that standpoint, but I think it's pretty good pre-snap processing. Falcons are probably going to be bad if we're being honest. And if you're a bad team, throw your rookie QB out there, see what he can do. So you got a feel of, okay, is this a Davis Mills situation where we give him a chance, or are we just going to take a top 5 QB and let Desmond be our long-term backup? From Coach Carter, should the Eagles re-sign Nick Foles? I actually don't hate that idea. They do, of course, already have Gardner Minshew, who I know there is the cult following of, understandably so. They did sign Carson Strong, so I will put the Eagles on my list of fits for Nick Foles because, I mean, the man's a legend in Philly forever, right? Denver could use a better backup QB. I like that one. Carolina had been linked briefly by Albert Breer, so I'll throw them in there. Seattle could use a QB. I mean, is he any worse than Geno Smith? I don't think so. And the Rams, unless they really love John Wolford, Foles would be a better backup to Matthew Stafford, I believe. Now, Foles is a backup. He's not going to start. That's why no one wanted to trade for him, right? But I want you to make some predictions right now. Who do you think the Cowboys, or who do you think will end up signing Nick Foles? Let me know right now in the comments section. I peeked ahead and saw the Cowboys question from Super Chat from Nick Lanham. D.D. Westbrook or Albert Wilson to the Cowboys? Of the two, I'd probably go with Albert Wilson. I believe there's some more special teams value, but I'm looking for a punt returner at this point if I'm the Cowboys who can maybe contribute as a receiver too. From Mark, $10, thank you. What gets me is we didn't get any trade value for Coop or Collins. The money we saved with them we're not using. Why not move Collins to guard and draft Linderbaum? Our new guard is a penalized tackle who can't pass block. That's Tyler Smith, who is the new left guard from Tulsa. Left tackle, high upside, was the most penalized player in all of college football among offensive linemen last year. I love Tyler Linderbaum. That's why I praise the Ravens so much for their draft class, at least part of why I praise them so much. But they didn't invest. They didn't like Linderbaum, so they wanted Tyler Smith, it would appear. He was their top fallback option in round one, and they allegedly had a pretty damn high grade on him, which is kind of crazy, at least to me. We are also on Rumble, my friends, and if you want uncensored videos on that platform, head over to rumble.com/NFL Daily. We'll make sure that link is in the comment section and in the description. From Jim Panson, 84, which day 3 pick do you think could have an immediate impact? So there are going to be a lot of guys on day 2 that step up and play a big-time role early. I think the first 3 picks of day 3, right? Cade Otton to the Bucks, Damian Pierce to the Texans, Perion Winfrey. All those guys could step up sooner rather than later. Looking through my list here as well, I like Neil Farrell a lot. The Charlie Kohler pick I like. Technically, your kickers and punters can make a big impact, but I hate that. Calvin Austin to the Steelers. I really like that pickup in the 4th round as well. We mentioned Tyler Algier of the Falcons earlier in today's live show. He's a good fit as an early impact type of player. Those skill position players also often make their impact felt kind of quickly. I thought Jamari Salyer to the Chargers was a steal later on in the draft. That's another one in terms of offensive line play who could make a nice impact for you. Mark, much aloha to you and your staff time on the draft. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Y'all are as good, if not better, than all the players. How do you get so informed on all of them? To be blunt, I have no life. That's how I spend all of my free time from like December, or almost all my free time from like December through end of April doing this stuff. Like I don't even do it at work. I do it on my own time, off hours. I get maybe a couple players done at the end of my day if I'm lucky. It's a lot of time, a lot of man hours. So thank you for the support, Mark. I appreciate it. From Cody, for the Titans, sign Eric Flowers, cut Taylor Lewan, trade for Tyler Lockett. Thoughts? Once we get past June 1st, a trade of Tyler Lockett does become more palatable. I don't like the idea of cutting Taylor Lewan. Who's my left tackle? I would go sign Eric Flowers, plug him in there at left guard. I'm down. I don't have a left tackle if I cut Lewan. So the other two, sure. I doubt you can get Lockett right now, though. But I think Flowers would be a good signing by Tennessee. I really, really like that idea, Cody. For live shows, NFL news, rumors, and more, all season and off season long, you've come to the right spot. Hit that big red button and subscribe at youtube.com/chatsportstv. From Speezy32, who has the better situation, Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett? It's a good question. I think both are in pretty decent landing spots. Both teams have good stability right now with their head coach and with their front office. Now, interestingly enough, both OCs are the play callers are not the head coaches. I think I lean Pittsburgh just because historically is one of the best run organizations in the NFL, but that's like 1A, 1B in terms of the quarterback landing spot. So it's a good question. I think I go Steelers, but it's a true toss-up for me. James Heiner, do you think Seattle will pick one of the top QBs, Young, Stroud, Rattler, in 2020? They didn't draft one this year. Probably. Now, this assumes that Seattle's drafting early this upcoming year, but I do think you're on to some of those top QBs in terms of like who's going to make the biggest impact there. Young, Stroud are probably the top 2 guys in this year's class. In the way too early version, since we did put Rattler in it in the way too early one last year, and that was a disaster. All right, Travis Baker, what teams are fits for Donta Hightower? Lots of them. I think any team that runs a variation of that Patriot-style defense, right? Including the Patriots themselves. I know producer Jack desperately wants him to return to New England. Tennessee didn't really add any linebackers. It's out of a late-round pick from Chance Campbell. Hightower could be a fun fit there. Miami's not in desperate need of any linebackers either after they drafted Channing Tindall, but I feel like Hightower's a better version of a Landon Roberts, so, like, bring him in. Denver didn't do much at inside linebacker. The Ravens could have some fun on that standpoint, too. Hightower being unsigned is interesting. I don't think he's as well regarded as he once was, but he can still help your football team. So when it comes to Donta Hightower, one of the more under-the-radar linebackers who are in free agency, where do you think he ends up signing? Make your prediction for me right now in the comments section. Tristan Stroud, will the Chiefs get at any more receivers after the draft? I kind of don't think so. They drafted Sky Moore. They brought back Josh Gore. They got a 5th-round pick from Cornell Powell last year. Juju, Miko Hardman, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They go right now almost 15 deep at receiver. Actually, they do go 15 deep at receiver. I don't think they're going to add anybody else right now. Sean, the RC mechanic. 2 questions for you. You're double dipping, you cheater. Who gets a starting job in Atlanta, Ridder or Mariota? I think Mariota starts week 1. Ridder's starting by week 18. And should the Falcons acquire Julio and Debo? You're sure if you want. I doubt you give up. You should not give up the draft capital to get Debo Samuel because you might be bad next year. So I'm not going to go get Debo because I need my first-round pick. Julio Jones? Sure. Why not? As long as that bridge has not been burned. Jason, and I'm surprised Jerry Hughes is still a free agent. He kind of falls into the older pass rusher category, and historically speaking, those guys tend not to get signed that quickly. So I'm not that shocked by it. I do think he'll sign at some point in the near future, at least before the preseason. From Oh My Lord, who will be the first quarterback drafted next? I assume you mean year. It is way too early, and we will do some way too early mock drafts. It would be an early 2-team race, I think. 2-player race. Bryce Young, the Alabama quarterback, and C.J. Stroud, the Ohio State QB. Hey, maybe Spencer Rattler actually is decent under pressure next year, but these are the early favorites in what appears to be a better class than what we had this year. I say appears to be because there's an entire year of college football to be played. Changes happen. It's not by any means a locked and loaded thing. Who do you think goes first of these 2? BY for Bryce Young or CJ for CJ Stroud? From Pablo, who had the best draft? The ones that I like the most, the Baltimore Ravens, I thought crushed it this year. I thought Philadelphia did a fantastic job as well. And I also thought that the Chiefs did. Those 3 teams in particular, amongst several others, all did a really good job. The Pass Master. I'm hoping Lewis Cine ends up being a Brian Dawkins type player. So Harris Smith can be the one looking in the box because he's not as fast as he once was. What's your take? Thanks, Chat Sports. I would not put Brian Dawkins' name alongside of Lewis Cine, in large part because Dawkins is one of the best safeties in NFL history, and I don't want to set up unrealistic expectations for the 32nd overall pick. I do like Lewis Cine. My athletic comp was Justin Reed of the Texans. If you get that out of him, I think you'll be very pleased with the draft selection.